What's up, tea drinkers? Who's ready to spill? Welcome to The Tea with KG, hosted by your girl, Kaylee Grace. Here you'll find your weekly boost of real talk mixed with laughter, healing, and all of those vulnerable, messy moments in between. The Tea with KG is a safe space for you to show up exactly as you are. We are here to share real-life stories from around the globe and be a community of love, joy, and celebrating life. This is a real deal show, so there will be coarse language and sensitive topics discussed. The most beautiful stories oftentimes emerge from the darkest of places, and we're here to explore it all. There's room for everyone at this tea time, so grab your drink of choice, spark it up, or just relax and soak it up. Cheers, and let's spill. What's up, tea drinkers? We are back with another episode of The Tea with KG. I'm your host, Kaylee Grace, and I have another amazing, beautiful guest joining us today, Angelia Morrison.
Thank you so much, Kaylee, for having me. I'm really excited to have this chat with you.
I'm so excited. It's going to be so good. So Angelia, she's from the East Coast as well. She's a Miramichi girl. So we got the she representing up in here. And I just want to thank you as well for joining me. And I'm just really honored that you're sharing your beautiful inspirational story with us on this platform. That's what it's here for, is to help people feel less alone and be inspired. And Angelia is a featured author in a book called Life Out Loud. So from reading her chapter in that story, I just know everyone's going to be very touched, and I'm just very excited that you're sharing that with us today. So thank you.
Thanks.
Angelia is a passionate advocate for mental health awareness, and like I said, she's going to be sharing a beautiful inspirational story with us today. But before we get into all of that, we'll get the who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm Angelia Morrison, a Miramichi girl from New Brunswick. I have two older brothers, Robbie and Sean, and my beautiful parents are Mike and Janice. I'm very blessed with a lovely family. I have a golden doodle and a Himalayan cat.
So cute. We love the animals here.
Tori and Ben, so they're my fur babies. Also, I'm a public servant. So I work for the federal government and have for almost 15 years now. I worked with Service Canada, and now I work with Indigenous Services Canada. I've led a life of public service for a long time.
Yes, Queen. 15 years. Cheers to you.
Thank you. So on a personal level, some hobbies and things I enjoy. I enjoy singing, obviously writing. I have a passion for cooking and all things fashion.
And also, too, if you're watching on YouTube, decorating, like look at your beautiful stuff behind you. And like I've seen some of your photos, like very creative. And I totally can relate to you on that level with like the fashion and like the artistry with singing and decorating and all of that. So I'm like, I know this is going to be such a good conversation. I feel like we have so much in common already. So, as you guys heard, Angelia is a featured author in a book called Life Out Loud. Super inspiring. I highly recommend checking it out. Once we get to the end of the episode, Angelia will definitely tell us all the ways that you guys can find that book if you feel called to. As we all know, life is full of curveballs, it's full of joy and laughter and learning and growth and pain and beauty. It's just like this multifaceted universe that we get to be existing on. Like, it's just wild. So, with life, as you listeners know, we all have a story. We all have things we go through, things that we encounter in life, and it all helps shape us and heal us and help us grow and evolve into whoever we're meant to be in this lifetime, right? So I just want to thank you again for being vulnerable with us today and opening up and sharing your amazing story. So without further ado, we'll get you to just dive right in.
I guess I'll start with how the book came about. Basically, it was probably about 10 years ago or a little over 10 years ago. I met a beautiful lady by the name of Paula Moran. She was a motivational speaker and life coach. I went to an event that was actually held in Moncton, New Brunswick, that she was a part of. And she was just so inspiring. She had such a touching story. And at the time, I had been going through some things in my personal life. And her story just really impacted me in a positive way. If anybody ever has an opportunity to go on YouTube and look up Paula Moran, there's a snippet there of her story. I highly recommend it. But her story and her experience in life, I guess, kind of catapulted her into another life path, and that happens a lot of times. And
Absolutely.
that day, I had the opportunity to speak with her and, just tell her, your story really had an impact on me, but she never knew why or how, um,
Right.
which I'll discuss with you. So later on in life, through my work with Service Canada, we were going through a period of workforce adjustment, and my manager asked me to help her come up with a wellness session to support employees. And right off the bat, the first thing I thought of was we need to have Paula Moran come and speak. And as part of that, I reached out to her, never dreaming that she would agree. And she actually came to speak to the
That's
group.
amazing. Oh my god. I live for that because it literally shows you by sharing our stories, look what like the ripple effect that had, right? Her sharing, you communicating with her and then getting her to come speak, like that's amazing.
Yeah, so she came and she spoke to the group, and in doing so, I did a little introduction to her. It was I didn't really even share my own personal story yet, and with her, and I had an impact on her that day. So from that,
Oh.
moving forward, she was always a part of my life. She was always that quiet voice in the background telling me to keep on trucking.
Yes, yes, girl. I love that. I'm having goosebumps the whole time you're
Yeah.
talking. It's so
So
powerful.
she's been there for the good and the bad, and just really a mentor in my life. And she
Mm.
always told me after that moment, where she came to Miramichi and spoke to a group of public servants, she always told me we were going to work together someday. And being young, I just kind of brushed it off. I was like, oh, yeah, like you speak to Fortune 500 companies and you've been all over the world. You've done all these amazing things with your life. Like, I'm just a little girl from Miramichi, you know? And yeah, she always said that. And, things happened in my life over the years, ups and downs, like anybody experiences. And she reached out to me actually about the end of April, beginning of May of this year, and she said she was working on her next publication. She asked me if I wanted to be a part of that. And I
How
was
long ago was this that she asked you?
just the end of April, beginning of
Oh, this
May
year?
this year.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
And we had a deadline of June 1st, to
Holy
start her.
crap.
So it was a lot, but it was very humbling to be asked that by her.
Oh
And
my
it was
god,
just
that would be a dream come true. Amazing.
Yeah, and it was the right timing in my life. The last couple of years, I went through some things in my personal relationships and things like that,
Mm.
and I was really digging in and doing the work on myself.
Oh,
And
preach, sister. And like timing, one thing I've learned is absolutely
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
And like it's hard sometimes as humans. Like I'm not the most patient with things I want because I'm such a dreamer, right? I feel like you can relate to that. When you're a dreamer and you have all these things, you're like, I want to do it all and I want it now, but it doesn't work like that. And that's not a bad thing though. Like I feel like those lessons we learn and when we're finally ready, it's like it tastes sweeter or something, or I'm more grateful. Like it's so beautiful. So I love that you mentioned that about timing because that's
yeah,
so, so key.
yeah. And so I talked to my family about it because I knew I had a story to share.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was completely ready for it to be out there in the world. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yep.
But I talked with my family. I consulted with some really good friends, and actually, one of my friends actually inspired the title of my story. She never knew my struggles, which we will get into. Uh,
Mhm.
she never knew my struggles, but in the conversation I had with her, I said, look, this lady reached out to me and she wants me to be in her next publication. And, I feel like I have a story to tell. And she's like, you do. She's like,
Yes.
my friend said to me, and it stayed with me, and I get emotional talking about it. But she said to me, she said, the thing about you, Ange, is, no matter what cards you've been dealt in life, you deal with them with grace.
Yes, girl. Yes. I'm sorry. That makes me
To
so
have
excited and happy.
Yeah, to have a friend and colleague say that to you is really touching. And so, she inspired me in that moment, and I was like, you know what? I'm ready for this. I'm ready to share my journey and my story with everyone. I consulted with my family because it's private. It's one of those things that people don't often talk about. But just to get right to it, I struggle with mental health. I have a mental health condition. It doesn't define me as a person.
Oh,
It's just something I live with every day.
preach it, girl.
Yeah, so that's what my story is about, and it's called Return to Grace.
I love that. Not for my own biased reasons that my last name is Grace, but Grace is honestly one of the most beautiful, beautiful words. And even when I saw your chapter, I just was like, this conversation we're having right now was so meant to be. Like I always look for the signs and synchronicities through life, and I just was like, oh my god, it's called Return to Grace. This is meant to be.
Yeah, I sat down at my computer and the words just poured out of me for my chapter. It was like
Yes,
the timing was right, and it felt right, and I was completely ready to share my
absolutely.
story. So, just a little disclaimer, I'm not a medical professional. I don't promote one treatment method over another. I'm just a human being that struggles like many others.
Oh
So
yes.
I think it's so important that we're having this discussion right now, because in doing so, we crush the stigma. We crush
Yes,
the
we
stereotypes.
do, honey. And I like live for that because through so many guests in different episodes, we talk on such different things, but mental health, like, and even myself, like, I go through depression and anxiety, and it's something like, it's interesting to me because it didn't become present in my life till my adult life. So it was very challenging for me to figure that out and like say the words out loud, like even just that, because I feel like now it's different. I find like there's much more awareness compared to when we were growing up, which is amazing. But it's still something that there are people. It does have that stigma, and it's like it's just part. It's not even who you are. It's just something that you deal with, you know. And I find that with my experience, it was a lot of trauma induced PTSD kind of symptoms, and it kind of came from something that really rocked me in my adult life. And yeah, navigating those rapids and choosing the healing path has been so humbling and like it's so inspiring because you realize like and I'm semi quoting you from your chapter, but it's like what we are capable of, you know, handling in life. Like I loved when I was reading those words because I was like, you know what? It's true. Like these are all lessons that come to us even if we don't get it in the moment. They come to us for a reason, and I can't commend you enough for sharing this because this is how we gain that beautiful compassion for each other as humans. Like a little less judgment, a little more compassion. I say that a lot here because none of us should judge. Like I want to hold a mirror up to people because all of us have stuff, you know? Every single person on this planet has stuff.
Yeah, and more importantly, speaking to that, everybody's been touched by mental health in some
Yes.
or another, whether it's personally, a loved one, a colleague,
Mhm.
um, you name it. And especially like with us being in a pandemic, a lot of people have struggled more so in the last few years than ever in their lives.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that component of it too. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, no, it's an important thing to talk about, and by sharing my story, the goal for me was to just change perspectives.
Yes.
Get people talking and hopefully change perspectives.
Right?
You
That's
know,
how we get it is by talking. Like it's so amazing what happens when we share those parts of us that maybe we had. I can speak on my own behalf that maybe I felt shame towards, or because you know shame lives in the dark. It's isolated, but when you speak on it, and I am thinking of past guests right now because these are beautiful words they have shared with me. It's like it brings us closer to connection. It was Joey actually that said this. He's like, connection is the foundation of health. And I literally repeat that to myself on the regular now. And it's just beautiful, like
it is.
that it opens us up. And you have to approach life with an open mind because life is too short. And there is so much out there in this vast universe that we as humans do not understand. Like,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And the younger generation, I know myself as a child growing up, for me, mental health and my realization of it and acceptance of it and everything like that was much later in life.
yeah.
For me as a child, I realized looking back that I struggled with anxiety a lot, through my
Mm,
childhood, through my adolescence, even in my 20s,
mhm.
Um, I was bullied as a child. Do I blame that for my condition? Absolutely not. But I know it contributed to my anxiety, you know?
For sure, that's a trauma. It would have an impact
Yes.
100%. Yeah, especially at such a young age, right?
Yes, exactly. So, I speak to some of that in my chapter, and it's really important that we open those conversations because when you're young and when you're going through life, these things can be happening to you and you don't necessarily know how to articulate them or speak
Mhm.
about them, you know,
Exactly.
like how you're feeling inside or how you're physically feeling, as a reaction to something. I just think it's really important that we open those conversations and
Yes, honey. Yes. I'm like, say it again for the people in the back because that is, again, it's how we move out of that place where it's something shameful because it's not. It is
no.
not. I could not agree with you more.
Yeah, I look at mental health conditions as no different, and it's not to take anything away from any other illnesses like cancer or diabetes or anything like that, but I look at it as no different than any of those illnesses.
Exactly.
People struggle in so many different ways in life, and mental health conditions are very real,
Hmm.
um, and they impact everybody differently. Everybody responds differently to different types of treatment.
Yep.
So
That's so true. I love that you said that too, because shining the light on that it's not a one size fits all kind of thing is so important too because just because you see one person who maybe deals with this and this is how they react or this is the treatment that works for them, that's wonderful. Maybe pieces of that can resonate with someone else, but it might not be like the exact same, and I think that's so important for any listeners out there. Just because something works for one person, don't think that just because that's not working or resonating with you that you're failing because you're not. It's a guess and test sometimes too, right? With what'll help heal you in the ways you need. And sometimes it's things you wouldn't even think of. And then you're like, oh, wow, that really resonates with me and my being. And I feel, and you'll know too, you'll feel in alignment with stuff that resonates with you. So very, very great that you said that. I love that.
exactly. And like for me personally, yes, I struggled with some anxiety growing up, but mental health really didn't hit me until I was about 27, 28.
Hmm.
And it hit me fast. I was a blushing bride at the time, trying to be the perfect little wife, and just spiraled out of control. And one day I found myself in hospital. I don't mind discussing things like that because it's part of who I am. It's helped shape who I am today, the experiences that I've had, right? So, um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so I was a young bride and I had been hospitalized because I was very, very sick at the time. I suffer from schizophrenia. I'm considered very highly functioning and responding very well to treatment. That being said, I maintain a job, I have for 15 years now. I'm very proud of where I am today. I know that my story could have been and may have been very different if I didn't have the love and support that I've had, if I haven't had the treatment that I've had, because we often hear about the horror stories, the bad side of mental health. We don't always
Hmm.
hear the positive stories, the good side of it. I mean, it's not to take anything away because everybody has bad days. I still have bad days, but
Same.
my bad days are very few now, and I'm very happy to say that. Uh,
Yeah, you have the tools in your toolbox. Like, now, you're like, okay, like, I know
yeah.
what I need to do here. If you don't mind me asking, I'm just curious, were there certain signs and symptoms that presented themselves to you to help your awareness? Or was it like, was your diagnosis purely like just from going to the doctor and then they went through things? Like, how did you know? Because I feel like sometimes people don't know when do you take it further to kind of dive in and be like, okay, I need to get some help. How do I do this?
When I was 27 or 28, that's when it first kind of came out, I guess, in
Right.
me. Um, or I showed a lot of symptoms, and I was just crying all the time and just very obsessive compulsive about my environment, and just felt really, really stressed and really like
Yeah.
hyper vigilant, things like that. And eventually my thoughts were racing quite
Mm,
drastically. And that one evening, they were racing so out of control that I reached out to my family and I said, something's wrong. So,
yeah.
because I've always been I've always been a very positive person, very outgoing,
Yes.
social. I was kind of withdrawn. Like all of these things were happening to me.
Mm.
But it was like it was a hindsight. It's looking back now, I see, oh yeah, like it makes sense. All that was happening to me.
Right, and it's so funny because I can relate. It's like hindsight's 2020, as they say. It's like you sometimes it's again, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's humbling, but it's also a great way to learn because then you can see you're like, like this was not adding up. Wasn't doing these things. Like, yeah, I totally feel you there.
Yeah, so when I reached out to my family, obviously we went and sought medical care right away, and they did so many tests on me, and nothing came back that there was anything physically wrong. So they had to explore the fact that there was something mentally going
Mhm.
on. And at 27 years old, that was really, really hard for me to accept. I didn't, in all honesty, I didn't accept my diagnosis and everything probably till my mid 30s, if I'm completely
Mhm.
honest. I had been hospitalized a second time. I went through a very stressful time in my life again, and found myself hospitalized again. And finally, I found a treatment that worked for me. Like I was on that. You hear oftentimes the story of the roller coaster of symptoms and things you go through with medications and things like that. And I went
Yeah.
through that for a long time until I found what worked for me. And
Right. And it can take time. And again, I love that you're being so open about this because I think it's so important to hear. Like, if something's not working for you, it's okay to change it. I know it's annoying. I know it's like, I just want it to work now. But like Angelia is saying from her experience, like, it's okay if you have to switch it up and listen to your body and your soul because they know what you need.
yes, you know yourself. You know how you should be functioning or how you should be feeling. And for a lot of years I didn't like how I felt. I went, and I
Yeah.
don't mind saying either, like I went from being a size 7 girl, not that weight or anything like that matters, but like I went from being a size 7 to a 14 in like a couple months. And so
Mm.
like, I was short of breath. I felt, just not in my own body. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm really blessed because my mom had been a nurse, and very smart lady, very smart nurse, and she was my voice when I didn't have one. And so
Oh,
you
that
you
just made me get all the feels. That was so
yeah,
beautiful.
and she actually, I dedicated my chapter to my mom. I don't know if you noticed that, but that's
I
why,
did.
because my mom really spoke up and advocated for me that she didn't want me to not be able to function to my full capacity. Um,
Yeah.
so I
She
have,
knows her little girl. She knows who you
yeah,
are.
yeah. So, my mom and I fought really, really hard as far as my treatment plan went, to get me to where I am today. And I'm really happy to say, like, I'm considered high functioning and I feel high functioning.
Mhm.
Like, I'm really, really blessed. And, I don't contribute at all to medical treatment. It's been the support that I've had from my family, my friends, my
That's
colleagues,
beautiful. Oh, and
my
again, it's
colleagues.
that support, right? Like, again, we're
Right.
gonna quote you again, Joey. Joey's gonna be like, "Hey, royalties, honey," but connection is the foundation of health. Like, it's
Yes.
so true, and I just feel like and for some people, they may not have a supportive family or close knit group of
That's
people,
right.
but it's by sharing stories like this, even
Mhm.
if you have to connect with someone virtually, there is support out there. And I just hope anyone listening, if you feel alone, reach out because nothing's worse than feeling alone when you already are feeling like not yourself?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
The biggest thing for me, is I've held on to my faith. My mom raised me to have a lot of faith. I'm not saying everybody has to believe in the God of Christianity, but I feel everybody has to hold on to some form of faith, whether that
Some
be
higher power, right?
some higher power, something
Yeah.
something to hold on to when life is bleak. You know,
Preach. Oh my God. I literally couldn't agree more because I'm not very religious, but I'm incredibly spiritual. And I feel so connected
yeah,
to all of and it's funny when I pray to everything. I'm like, God, universe, mother God, divine source, creator. Like I say it all because to me, I it's all there, right? And the people who look after us in life, oh God, I'm gonna get emotional right now. I can feel it. But like people who you love who've passed on and everything like that, they're always with you. And I find when you tap into that, it's so powerful because
it is.
I said that to my boyfriend today. I was like, if I didn't have faith in something, I don't know what I would have to hang on. Not that I wouldn't have anything to hang on to, but you know what I mean? It's exactly what you're saying. Like those moments when you're down and out, it's so comforting to know you're always divinely guided and protected.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. It's so freeing to me to have that. So I really like that you brought that up.
Yeah, like I'm a firm believer that with a lack of faith, there's an absence of hope.
Yeah. Ooh,
Right.
that's a good quote. I just got goosebumps again.
I really believe that is it's when we lose that faith, that belief in there's something there that, guides us, looks out for us, you know, that's when we lose hope. I can't stress to people enough, hold on to the things that you're passionate about, or that you love, and you know, anything like that can see you through the hardest of times.
Yes. And like, again, when we're talking about support, having your faith in whatever it is you choose to believe in, that's support. I feel so supported by stuff I can't even see physically. Like, and I see signs and synchronicities from the spirit team all the time, like number magic, angel numbers, you know, I say butterflies a lot. I mean, obviously we know those are special for me, but anything, feathers, birds, dimes, there's so many things and I feel like any sign or symbol I see, I'm always like that was for me. Someone put that there for me and it's
Yeah.
such a grateful feeling I get. I'm like, "Okay, I
Yeah.
got this. I can keep going." Like it's
Yes.
very powerful.
That's beautiful. And it's so true. So true.
Yeah. And it's just like you have to be able to lean on that in those times because sometimes life doesn't make sense straight up in the moment. Sometimes it's like I don't know what to do right now, and once the fog clears and you kind of sift through it a bit, like we were saying, hindsight's 2020, you always can see the lesson or whatever was meant to be learned or how we were supposed to heal or grow, because like you were saying, like you've gone through some stuff in your life that's been very, you know, painful or heartbreak or challenging and loss and grief and just all of those things. It's just, it's amazing that we as humans have that capacity
We
to,
have that resilience built
right?
in us. We really do, to overcome really trying times. We really do. And it's a
Hmm.
blessing that we have.
Right? And it's like and we're not saying that it's magical and beautiful while you're going through it. I wish it was queen of rainbows and butterflies over here, but yeah, I've been on the floor crying my eyes out with the saddest songs on, just like singing, getting all of that out or whatever the case may be. There's been some very very ugly moments in my healing journey, but I own them because I'm like, you know what? I would rather feel that and fully express whatever that is and move
Yes.
forward in a good way, then
Right.
can just stay on the merry-go-round and spin your wheels. Because again, avoidance too, you gotta deal with your shit, people, because I
Yes.
am a prime example. Like, I feel like growing up, we kind of avoided things, like, put it under the rug, we didn't talk about a lot, and in my adult life, it all came back to bite me, and I was like, "Okay, this is a lot all at once." I can relate so much to you when you're saying even the age where stuff for you happened, same here, like, that's
Mhm.
when I started to feel me needing to take control and look within and heal my stuff. Cause
Yes. Yeah, you have to be able to, look at yourself and the things that you've gone through or the things that you're going through, and I keep coming back to having faith, that there's another day. I'm right into quotes, Kaylee. We're
ooh,
right into
yes.
quotes. And I want to read one that you're going to probably laugh at, who it's
Oh,
from.
I'm excited.
um
Also, to everyone listening, Angelia, her Facebook, I knew we were going to have a great conversation because we share very similar things, like the mindset stuff she shares. It's just so beautiful and inspirational. So I have to shout that out because I live for those types of posts. So thank you also for being such a beautiful sunshine presence on our social medias because we need that too.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess before I read a little quote that I wanted to share with you, it just made me think of something. I also had the wonderful privilege in my career to hear Darcy Lang speak. She's a motivational speaker and coach, and what she talked about in the session that I got to be a part of was focus on the 90%. Focus on the 90% that's good in your life rather than the 10% that's not.
Oh, yes, and who is it, Tony Robbins, that says energy flows where attention goes or something like that?
Yeah,
Same idea, different way to say it, but
yeah.
same vibe.
So, when I've had things happen in my life that were not great, let's be honest.
Mhm.
But along the way, these people have been placed in my life, I feel, for a reason.
I
You know what I mean?
agree.
So, when she talked about focus on the 90% and not the 10% that's wrong in your life, I was like, wow, like,
Aha moment, right? I live for those too. I'm like,
exactly.
"Yes."
Exactly. And the same for Paula Moran. She had the same impact on me when she shared her very personal story. Um, it was a very different outcome in her story than the life that I was living. And it was kind of like a reality check for me.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I had this diagnosis, but I am very blessed and very grateful to be high functioning. And
Yes.
I recognize that there are people with my diagnosis that aren't, or that aren't
Mhm.
able to seek treatment, that don't have the support systems in place. I recognize all that, but it's my hope with sharing my story and my journey that we can open the conversation and take a little bit of personal responsibility over each other. That
Mhm.
compassion, that's where that compassion comes in again. You know what I
Yes, honey.
If we see a colleague struggling, or open the conversation, say, how you doing today? Like, just a simple how
Yeah.
are you today, or a simple smile,
I was
like,
just about to say that, we're the same brain. I was like, smiling at people is so like underrated. It's such an easy thing to do, especially I find now living in Vancouver where it's like different Miramichi. I know half the people I walk past here. I don't know anyone I walk past for the most part. And
yeah,
like, it's interesting, like when you do smile, some people avoid eye contact, of course, but then you get those little connections. And like maybe someone was having an awful day and your smile maybe gave them hope or something, right? So
that's
I
right.
love that.
Yeah.
And I also love too when you're saying about, the inspirational speakers you've watched, how much they have impacted you, because I feel the same. I've had the privilege of seeing some really great speakers throughout my life. And I feel as well, some of my
Mhm.
darkest moments, it's hearing people's stories. It's just freaking life changing. And eh, I feel like it's like how we do our light work and the service we can provide our fellow humankind, because this world is full of enough gross vibes with, the money, greed, power, hate, fighting, all this stuff. And I'm just like, I feel like as humans, we have forgotten what's really important. And that is compassion, kindness, empathy towards others, being
Yeah,
open. It doesn't mean we all have to agree. I'm not trying to say that. I am very harmonious as a human, but we don't have
yes,
to agree, but at least be respectful and open. Because sometimes, too, it takes time. Like something you might hear it 5 years ago, and then 5 years later, you hear it again and it makes more sense to you. You're like, ah, right. Because you've learned a bit more along the way.
right. My quote that I wanted to share with you was from Dolly Parton.
Oh, we love Dolly.
It's a quote that stayed with me, and I can never get it right, so I wanted to read it. You have to work hard at being happy, just like you have to work hard at being miserable. I wake up every day expecting all to be good and right, and if it's not, I set my mind to making it so by the end of the day.
Oh,
So that's a quote that I learned a long time ago, and
hmm
it's stuck with me. And that's, I've always been a positive person. I've always been, yes,
yeah.
I've had very, very dark moments, but there's just always been that's something that pulled me out of it.
I feel the same way, like since childhood, always being optimistic and bubbly and all the things. And then I find too, for people who are maybe wired more like you and I, when you do get rocked, it's like very foreign. It's like when certain emotions and feelings and things were going through my body, I was like, I don't know what to do with you right now. Like that's what it just took me so long to even be able to admit, oh, okay, this is what I'm dealing with right now. So I love hearing stories from that perspective, because it just shows you that you can still be positive and bubbly and funny and sunshine, but it
Yeah,
doesn't mean there aren't things that you do deal with. And I think people in general need to remember that, because it's almost like, when you look at social media, it's the highlight reel for the most part. Some
yeah,
people put it all out there, but
yeah.
it's not real. It's not the whole story. There's
That's
always
right.
more if we just dig a little deeper, but peel back the layers of the onion, because
Yeah,
we got some layers going on as human beings,
Yeah,
girl. Like,
yeah, yeah. And to speak to that quote too, like another lady that I had the opportunity to work with through my experience with my illness, she said to me, "We all have a personal choice every single day we open our eyes of
mm,
how that day is going to play out for us. We may wake up, we may not feel great, we may feel a little down, we may be depressed. It may be a really, really bad day, but we have a choice. Are we going to make it a bad day, or are we going to work towards making it a better day?
yes, like
For ourselves.
finding those little moments of sparkle in your day. Like,
Yeah,
your energy may be a lower, it could be
yeah,
because I find when I'm not as like, woo, I'm more like chill and mellow, but that's
yeah,
okay. You can honor that, but you can still,
yeah,
like Angelia said, make it as good as you can. Like, find those moments, find
yeah.
those little pockets of joy in your day and be
It's
grateful for them when they're there. Even if it's like, be the simplest thing. This coffee is amazing. Like, enjoy that moment.
yeah, it's on the really tough days that I know I have to practice more self-care. You know,
Yes.
I've learned that as part of my path. It's days, days where I wake up and I feel like, oh, I really don't know if I can face today or the challenges of
Mm,
today. I know that those are days that, I have to sit and have my coffee and just be with myself,
be
or I have to
present.
take a
Yeah.
break and go for a walk outside and enjoy nature and just the fresh air. You know,
Yes, I was gonna ask you, what are your self-love, self-care practices? You already said too that I'm so huge on coffee, walk in nature, hell
walk
yeah.
in nature. Yeah. Getting my rest is so important. I,
I need my sleep. My boyfriend laughs at me. He's like, "You can't." We put a show on, and I'm asleep in like 5 seconds. I'm like,
yeah,
I love my sleep.
just little things like that. Writing in a journal.
Mm.
I do a lot of things like that for myself.
Yeah,
Things that
were
are,
you always a writer? I'm curious. Like you mentioned journaling. I love to journal as well, but where you're actually like in a book, I'm like, were you always like someone who did write and things like
I
that?
did, yes. From a very early age, I was inspired to read and write, and I was
Mm,
very good in English, in English
yes.
class, school and things like that. So
Same here. We are so alike. It's so freaky. I'm like, yep, I can relate. So, when it comes to the mindset practices, are there certain things within your healing or your treatment plan that you do that help you maintain your mindset? Like, I know you're big on the quotes, which I love too. And quotes are so simple and it's such an easy way because it's so accessible with the internet, right? You can find quotes so quick that help just realign you. So, I'm curious, like, are there books you read or like what do you do for your mindset practices?
for my mindset, a lot of it is quotes. Like,
Yes,
I
right?
like if you scroll through my social media, like it's quote after quote, and it's not even necessarily something that, is how I'm feeling that day. It's something just that maybe resonates with me, or that I think maybe will resonate with a friend, or
Yes.
just had an impact in some way. So quotes are really, really big. I love to sing and loved music from a very early age. But yeah, music is just healing to me.
Oh, it is so friggin' healing, like
Mm,
and even for, like, your throat chakra, like, to sing, you are releasing, like, 'cause different songs, they awake emotions within us, and, like, you can hear a song and hear lyrics and be like, "Oh my god, that's how I feel today," or, "I've been
yeah,
there," and you can relate to that, and, like, if you're going through a breakup or if you're having a happy day or whatever your emotion is, you
yeah,
can find some songs that are gonna make you feel better, and, like, I always think too at the gym or when I'm working out, I am a girl, I need my tunes because I might be, like, gassed out, but then if my jam comes on, I'm like, "Alright, let's go, second wind, I got this."
yeah. Just with mindset and, keeping my focus and things like that, I practice a lot of self-care and setting boundaries in life. I think that's so
Ooh,
important.
yes.
Like learning to let things go that aren't meant for you,
Oh, yes.
and setting those boundaries. Like I've really learned, and it took me a long time to learn in life. you know I could almost feel, okay, like today's too much for me, so I need to
Mhm.
cut back on this or not do this. And even in friendship and in relationships and things like that, which, I look back to my childhood of being bullied. I always had a hard time setting boundaries. So
Yeah.
I've learned to do that, to protect my peace, but to protect my
Oh,
health,
yes.
as
Preach.
well. So, setting boundaries has been really, really important in my life. Just say no.
Yes. Oh my god, I'm so happy you brought this up because I also struggle here and there with that. It's like it's so
Mm,
empowering and it is uncomfortable at first because you're used to saying yes and
yeah,
always being available and never saying no and always putting others before you. But you have to pour into your own cup, or like we know that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup because you can't, or you can for a while, but you will burn out. And then the recovery from that is just 10 times longer. You don't want to go there. Speaking from experience, burnout is not a good time. Let's just not go there. Honor your health. But
yeah.
the boundary setting, yeah, I do feel uncomfortable still sometimes, depending on what the scenario happens to be. But
Mhm,
with practice, it's like anything. It's like training a muscle. The more you say no and honor you, the
mhm.
easier it gets. But yeah,
That's right.
I love that you brought that up. More people need to hear that.
Yeah,
Yeah, boundaries are very, very key, people. And if you are like us, it's maybe not the most comfortable thing to implement into your life, but
yeah,
you'll
that's
know
right.
when it's necessary.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. I love this so, so much. I was also going to ask you too about when it comes to your faith. Like, I love hearing people's spiritual side. I'm always into that because, there's so much we can pull on and relate to. Like, what's your way to stay connected to your faith?
My faith resides in God, and I feel that, things are happening in my life or have happened in my life for a reason. And it's been in the most difficult times that, I've had to turn to prayer, or I've had to just take a moment of silence to myself, and
Yes.
and pray. I'm going to get through. And I get
Mhm.
emotional talking about that. But that's really been, for me, important, to know that there's something higher than me that's determining the path of my life.
And praying is such a simple, easy thing to do. Since I was a kid, I always resonated with just simply what you just said. So simple, but it keeps you connected. And I think sometimes with spirituality, people
Yeah,
complicate it. And I'm like, it's not. I'm like, and also what feels right? What feels right for you?
yeah.
Right?
I don't sit in church every Sunday. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I go when I need to go.
Yes.
When I feel like I need that grounding, or I need that support again in my life, and then I carry on my way. That's my faith. You know.
Yes. I
And
love that.
um it looks different for everybody. But yeah, like in some of my darkest moments, I've always turned to prayer, and my grandmother raised me that way. I can remember at a very early age saying my prayers by her bed. I was raised that way, and my mom really instilled a lot of faith in me as well, encouraging that. Those things definitely had an impact on me throughout my life, and even
Yeah.
has sustained me through my condition, so
I feel you. Whatever tea drinkers, whatever you look to,
yes.
just know that is so divine and so beautiful, and you are so protected and guided, even if you're going through something really, really sticky and painful and doesn't feel good right now. Sometimes the people don't want to hear, oh, it'll be okay or it's for a reason. Without a doubt, the things that occur in life, it is for a reason. It always is.
Yeah.
And not everyone is dealt the same hand in life. And that it breaks my heart because I think of how
Yeah.
privileged we are and how
Yeah.
much we have and how blessed we are.
Yes.
And there are people who don't even have food or running water. It just, again, it's just like our perspective sometimes. I'm just like, we need to bring it back to like the simplicities of like helping people who genuinely don't have the basic things they need for survival. Like,
That's right.
it's just wild to me. So I like having that reflection, just knowing we're very blessed no matter what life throws
Yes.
at us.
Yes. Exactly.
Mm. So let's talk a little bit about the book too. I know we've sprinkled it all through, but I want to just kind of touch on it. It's a compilation of, I'm not sure how many authors are in it. It's quite a
There's
few, right?
there's 21 authors, and
Whoa.
all across the country. We all have different backgrounds, different life experience, a different story. Everybody has a story. I think that's the beautiful thing about an anthology or a book like this, is
Yes.
everybody has a story to tell.
Mhm.
Um, and the more people share their stories, again, going back to Joey's quote,
Yes.
more connected we are, so
So true. And that's so what I want to accomplish with this platform is putting down the veil of perfection and opening up the doors to reality. Like this is
yes.
our real 3D life, people.
I have to say, I really do not like that word perfection. You know,
Right? What
because
is perfection?
that word perfection, like we always chase perfection
Right? It
and
doesn't exist. It's like it's
it
not
does not
real.
exist. Yes.
No. And it's like I just feel like sometimes it's a multitude of things that, make us think that we can attain this and
Yeah.
it's just not real. It's like a societal
No,
thing. But who
yeah.
even made those rules? Who even like put that out there? Like be a good human, be kind to others, respect your boundaries. That's
Yes.
it. I can relate too because I feel I definitely have like a little bit of perfectionist syndrome in me. Like when you want things to look nice, or like when I'm editing these and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get it exactly perfect right here.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to know when enough is enough and it's fine the way it is.
Yeah. That's right.
I like that you brought that up a lot because I just feel like we all need to drop the charade of perfection because it's not real. Not a thing.
Not a thing, not a thing. Everybody has their stuff. Everybody has something that they're going through, or their ups and downs, or their struggles. But the more we talk like this, the more openly we discuss things, the easier it gets. When I was 27 years old and, struggling with my mental health, there was so much, even then, even though we had come such a long way with mental health, even today when we've come so far with mental health, um, I had so much shame and embarrassment about that,
I felt the
oh,
same.
and at the end of the day, like I can't say it enough. Like my disability does not determine the outcome of my life. The
It's
things
not
that
your worth.
exactly, exactly. And that's an important message I want people to take from this is
Yeah.
that you can have a severe mental condition like I do and still be capable of great things and living the life of your dreams. And
Yes.
you know, it's that's that's how I feel. So
I love that, and you live it, like, you can see it, like, it's just beautiful, and, like, it's your approach. All of us are in charge of our approach to life, like, some of the beautiful quotes you've shared, even just direct quotes right from you, it comes back to that, like, what foot do I put forward today? And it's just beautiful, and it shows your strength that even in the moments where you didn't feel like yourself and they were darker times for you, that you still led yourself and led your life with that beautiful positivity and sparkle that you always do. So I think that shows so much to your
and
character.
that comes back to grace. Grace,
Yes.
I talk about that in the book, like learning to give grace to others, to yourself, and to accept it from a higher power.
Yes.
So,
I really loved that title. It's just, it set me up perfectly for what I was about to read. And it just, again, it's just such a beautiful, beautiful word.
and grace means so many things to different people. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it can be, a movement. It can be, you know, it can be like how you treat others or how you put yourself forward. It can mean many different things. So,
Right? It's a
I
multifaceted word. I like that.
like my chapter being called Return to Grace was a reminder to people that we need to return to grace towards each other.
Yes. Do you have any future books in the works or any plans or dreams for anything like that?
The thing about my chapter, like it's snippets of my life. It's not the
Yes.
whole story. So yes, I would like to write an actual book and fill in the blanks. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So and talk a lot more about what I've gone through in life
More
and
details.
yeah, in more detail. Like
Mm.
this is just a snippet. This just scratched the surface. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I feel like I have so much more to share and still to tell with the hopes of inspiring and empowering other people.
That ripple effect, baby. I love it. We're manifesting it now. We put it out there. Angelia, she's going to have a book. And you know what? You'll come back on and talk about it when you do. We're saying when because it's happening. It's out there to the universe. We're ready for it.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, before we get into how people can get your book, we'll get your final words of wisdom. You've dropped so many beautiful snippets on us. I'm curious what you got for me.
Uh, I'm gonna leave you with a Brene Brown quote
Ooh, we love Brene Brown up in here. Let's go.
because I love quotes so much.
Yes, you're in the right place.
Brave leaders are never silent around hard things.
Ooh, let's hear that one more time.
Brave leaders are never silent around hard things.
I got chills. She's always got the good wisdom for us.
Yeah. So I look at it as I've discussed hard things in my life, in my chapter. And my friends have said to me, "You're so brave," and everything like that. And it's really touching and it's really humbling that I've been given the opportunity that I have and the platform that I have to share my story. Not everybody's given that opportunity. And when I reflected on what I was going to write, I knew, you know what, I do have a story to tell, and I do have one that will make a difference to somebody, whether it's family
Yes.
members of somebody that's struggling with a mental health condition or somebody personally that's struggling themselves. Sometimes we have to be brave and have a little bit of courage to put ourselves out there because we don't know the impact that it's going to have on another person's life.
Preach 100%. You're like the perfect guest for me to have on here. You're saying everything that I'm just like so here for. It's just truth bomb after truth bomb. Okay, let's plug in any ways people can get your book if they feel called to. It's called Life Out Loud, just in case
Yes.
people didn't catch that before.
Yes, the book's called Life Out Loud, and it's by Dream Big, Be Bold Media out of Ontario. It can be found on Amazon. Like I said, everyone has a different story, a different point of view, and the whole book, the whole goal is to inspire, empower, and motivate people. So it's a beautiful book, and I'm very honored that I was a part of it. And Kaylee, thank you so much for having me today to have this discussion. It's so important and life changing for people. Um, so
Yes, I want to thank you. I'm like, no, no, thank you for coming on here and honoring me and all of the listeners and viewers with your story. I know it's going to touch people and they'll resonate with it. And it's just so important, like you said, to open up the doors to vulnerability because vulnerability is a freaking beautiful magical place and I love when people get vulnerable. I'm like, yes, I have so much respect for it because I know it can be a very scary thing. You have to drop down a lot of walls, you have to step out of, the ego and go and like what is
mhm.
going to be for the highest good and what you're doing is and it's just beautiful. I've said thank you a million times, but I'm going to thank you again because I just loved this conversation so, so much. For anyone listening, I'm going to have the Amazon linked in. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be in the description box. If you're listening via podcast, it'll be in the show notes. So if you are interested in the book, it'll have a link right there. So it'll be super easy to find. And I, of course, want to thank all the beautiful listeners and viewers for tuning in and integrating your energy into this because this platform would not be what it is today without all of you. And I just really appreciate it. And it's just beautiful to have all this lovely light just combining and changing the world and shifting how we see things. So thank you so much for tuning in. And we will see you next time.